this was one of the first week-long events that we had. We had interaction. I did a live event, and wasn't exactly, being honest, because I like to try to be honest with all of you, was not the bigger discussion I'd really hoped for. You roll with the punches, so we're not going to sit around and complain and moan about what didn't go the way we would have liked it to go. Instead, we're going to get right into today's topic. So you can all buckle up. Give me about an hour of your time while I'm going to get down to bringing you the information that you most wanted. And we're going to be switching our background here on TikTok, so bear with me. How's the YouTube audience? Just someone give me a hey, what's going on, so I know that you guys are hearing me okay, doing a mic check. For some reason, our background thing is not working on TikTok right now, so I don't know what that is necessarily about. It should work. I mean, we could always use the original background if we have to. That is just the way of technology. It's been one of those weeks. We're not going to wait. We're going to go ahead and go. So we're going to redo this. I don't know why, but I'm actually a little tired today. And I guess it was a day that I did not expect it to be for whatever reason. But we're going to go live right now. I'll call this up. Bring this. There was a really cool one we had the other day. I'm trying to find it for us right now. Sort of this, but not really. I think it was just the fact that we were on an image. All right, you guys can see it. We're ready to go. Let's do it. We are going to take comments, questions as we go. I'll be paying attention to both streams. For whatever reason, this is just not letting us do what we would normally do with our background, and I guess it's just going to be that. You guys can see the normal background like typically seen on this show, so it's not a big deal. I just want to make sure we get rid of this because I don't want it interfering with our live. How is everyone doing? Let's do it. So let me move over a little bit. All I really need to see is your comments, and I have that perfectly set up. What's going on? You're welcome. It's my honor to be here to talk to you guys about general. We're going to go over the general community behavior. Willing and always able to hear all of you out, but this is what we have actually gotten for the last few days as conversation materials. So if you guys are making comments, I can see you and I will answer for them. Normally, when it comes to community spaces, there was always the golden rule of avoid the conversations of sex, politics, and religion. But religious kinks have been on the growth and have become a little more popular than they have typically been in the past. So that's something to consider. While I don't think sex is necessarily a conversation that has to be had with kink at all, is again, BDSM is not inherently sexual. I will say that sex has to be talked about when we're talking about bad behaviors sometimes. So that's almost changing. You know, the as much as it's not necessarily vivid or lewd or graphic, I think it can be okay. And politics. It's hard to avoid politics right now. And this community and our sister community, LGBTQ, is under attack. Tread lightly, be who you need to be in the moment, but it is a topic. So we're not going to talk about that. And that were things that used to be said to me when we were coming up, or I was coming up. And that has clearly changed. So let's go over the behaviors that should not have changed. We do not sexualize kink or BDSM. And I know we talked about talking about sex, but not every kink, not every compeller, not every fetish. Well, fetishes have to be sexual. That one actually applies. But kink, compellers, and BDSM are not inherently sexual. We say at the end of the close many of these programs, and that will be a continued thing that we believe and preach on this channel. In community spaces, to answer the question, because I had this in a chat the other night, why is it a big deal? Because you're talking about the asexual spectrum. demisexual. Not everyone is here for sex. We are not swingers. The BDSM lifestyle is not a swingers lifestyle. There is overlap, but it's not. A lot of people are polyamorous, but polyamory is not swinging, and no one should be just randomly trying to get laid. Everyone made the mistake of calling polyamory, ethical non-monogamy, ENM. That is the umbrella term. Polyamory is not. Polyamory is very specific about having many relationships with people. Doesn't define what type of relationships, but it does come up as being many loves. It is meant to be something bigger and more involved than just, I'm going to sleep with everyone I can. That is not the goal of polyamory. That is the goal, in fact, of being a swinger. Consent always matters, no matter whether it's touching something, talking to someone. Yes, talking even requires consent. And I know what you're going to think. How can someone consent? Well, it's more so if someone says they don't want to engage with you, assume they've removed consent. Because it's very hard to go up to someone and just coldly say, do I have consent to talk to you about? Because then they're going to say, what do you want to talk about? And suddenly you're already talking without the consent. In reverse, especially in social places, you have to assume that some people are going to want to have conversations with you. They're going to want to talk to you about things. So there is not what I would call implied consent, but it is a social environment that encourages talking. And by entering there, you have entered a place where people could want to speak with you and or will try to speak with you. However, that does not mean you have to speak to them, and you can at any point remove that. Attendance to these events does not mean that you have to be subjected to any type of behavior that's over-sexualized. Anyone touching you, there is not hee funny, I can spank someone because they're here. That is disgusting and gross, and we need to weed that out. That is not proper community behavior. That is gross, predatory behavior. Privacy is key to the community. I don't understand why people have forgotten that so much. You have zero permission, consent to share other people's information that they have shared to you, whether you're at a kink event for a munch or you're at a play party. Even at a play party, you shouldn't go around and talk about how someone was playing. You are literally outing them. Every time you mention someone without permission, let me put it to you this plainly. If you want to say something about someone, get permission before you say it. If someone asks about your friend or someone you know in the community, be like, hey, I'll get back to you. I have to ask them if I'm okay sharing this information. If that were the standard, and it should be the standard, suddenly everything would change overnight. It would if we were kicking people out of the community for being gossips, because gossips are dangerous. Because gossips will share misinformation, and it could and does cloud when there are actual consent violations. People will be like, well, I heard that Jimmy didn't do what Jan said he did. No, none of that vanilla bullshit. If you're spreading rumors, you're helping consent violators. I want you to look at it that way. It's the truth. Now, if you have bona fide fact or testimony, like if someone tells you that person violated my consent, I would say trust but verify. Make sure that everything seems to line up, and then go for it. I'm the person who advocates, and if anyone were to out someone, I would stand by their side and say predators should be outed. I don't out predators at the moment simply because it's what the culture does not want, and I would rather get them there holding their hand than always being the guy that's like, oh, he outed everyone. I want to, but I won't. For now, I want everyone to come with me on that journey. Events are not meant to be a get you laid journey for yourself. Not every event, not every munch is so you can get laid. And if your goal in this lifestyle is to get laid, you do not deserve to be on FetLife. That is Vanilla Life. That is Tinder. That is Grindr. That is every dating app. Kink is not getting laid. Kink requires a lot more steps, a lot more conversations, and we would rather you not gum up the works, because it is those of you who come in wanting to be a quote-unquote pleasure dom, and I wish I had time to tear into this one, and I'll just say this about pleasure doms. What do you think that all the other doms are trying to do with their submissives? Give them pleasure. Get pleasure. That was implied. Not all pleasure either is sexual. Notice how pleasure doms are always about sexual pleasure. What about play pleasure? What about just the interactions of playing with someone? I guess we're not going to talk about that because that's too adult for many. And if that's too adult for many, they don't belong in our lifestyle community events. Kindergarten rules apply. Really, if you think about it and you went to kindergarten, I was at an event and it made it clear to me that not everyone has actually been to kindergarten, depending on your age. I was one of the first years in 1978 that went, not 78, 1983, because I remember my older sister went to kindergarten. I don't know how I remember this, but it was a half-hour day for her. When I went to kindergarten, it was a full day. And my sister, my older sister, is such a nerd. She was upset that she didn't get the full day. She was mad at me because she didn't get to go to school more. That is a drastic difference between us, despite how close genetically we are. But I love my sister, no complaints. But it's kindergarten rules, you know. At the end of the day, it's all kindergarten rules that we're ignoring. No touching, no using phones unless especially the cameras are pointed down. If you're going to be on your phone checking on your family or anything, always be the person who tries to do it. I actually have a